Hitting up the Hamptons or the Jersey Shore this summer? Don't waste tanning time at the store. Let Fresh Direct bring you everything you need for a delicious summer. Just picked fruit and vegetables, custom cut meat and seafood, and all your favorite snacks and drinks. You can even order from the beach and be done before the next song's over. Use code MUSIC to get $25 off your next order of $99 or more. Visit freshdirect.com or download the app today.
Blog Talk Radio.
What up, everybody? Clear Lens Productions podcast. Got Patri-ca and Edward coming on today. Let's get into this Bill Maher, Kathy Griffin issue last week. Let me get our guests on. All right, we back. Let me get the guests on.
Hello.
Patri-ca?
Yes, I'm here.
Edward?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
What's good, my nigga? Y'all can hear me
Not
okay?
much, man.
Y'all can hear me okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Word. Everybody hear each other good? We good?
Yeah.
Yep, here.
All right, let's get into it, man. What we doing with this nigga Bill Maher?
Okay. Let me just say that how I felt. So I actually watched the video. I watched the video to see in what context he was saying it, and so on and so forth. So the conversation went like that. Whomever he was talking to or had on the show was saying, come out in the fields and work with us. He was making a political joke, but it still had that racial undertone. It was still a racial slur. You get what I'm saying? So that cued Bill Maher to saying, working in the field? No, I'm a house nigga. Nigga, what? The way he said it was so comfortable. It was jovial, and I don't care if his intention wasn't to disrespect us, because the words in and of themselves are disrespectful, and you're not allowed to say it. Period. And I felt as though.
You got more Patri-ca?
And I felt as though, yes, a little more. And I felt as though, look at this right here. This is the shit right here that we need to put into our youth so that they can recognize when someone, even if their intent isn't there, they need to know when to check people. Because what that statement right there, if he truly understood what that has done to the black community, that is the start of colorism. That is the start of placing lighter skin tone people at a higher because they're closer to white. So you get to work in the house. You don't got to work in the field. That is fucked up, and that is the brainwashing that we have today. Like light skinned people, it's too hot outside. I can't be outside. I don't want to get darker. Well, why don't you want to get darker? You know what I'm saying? So I just felt pissed about it. I felt like rightfully the actions that were taken against him, rightfully so. And yeah, that's what I had to say. That's what made me mad.
What about you?
So, quick question. Patri-ca, what was the what was his disciplinary actions? What took place against him?
Well, supposedly his show was being canceled, but that could be just free smoke.
Got you. So they're threatening to take him off the air?
Huh?
So they're threatening to take him off the air?
They're going to – I can't hear you, Edward. What'd you say?
You're breaking up, Ed.
No, I was asking if they were threatening to take him off the air.
That's what they were doing.
Gotcha. All right. Go ahead, Jordan.
Well, to answer your question, and I want you to continue with your point, they released an apology, a bullshit apology at that, from HBO. And what a lot of people don't realize is Bill Maher owns the production company. He's actually in a partnership with HBO. He doesn't work for anyone. So it's not as simple as a Bill O'Reilly situation where we say, all right, we're just going to fire him and get him out of here. It goes a little deeper. But continue with your point.
Part owner. I mean, well, shit. If
this might be able to be turned around as like free like marketing for him to like use HBO to get more ratings, more people to watch HBO, just to hear him say I'm sorry, and he doesn't really mean it.
That's possible.
That's bullshit. That's how white people operate, though, in general.
That was all you had, Ed?
Huh?
I was asking Edward if that's all he had.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with Patri-ca 100%. I can definitely see multiple angles as to like what this may lead into, or what it can lead into, but he's definitely like not at the end of the day, he's not dumb. Like, he's not where he is in life because he made like stupid decisions like this, but I feel like this might be like just free marketing, like some wicked way of marketing for him to lead into something else, like him being an author and like him writing a book or some shit because he doesn't want to be on TV no more. You know what I mean? So,
right. And then, y'all, I saw something on the Shade Room, and, you know, we all know the Shade Room today has some very credible things going on. And his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend, said that she insinuated, but however, why are you being interviewed by the Shade Room, airing him out just to insinuate, just to not say it and insinuate, which I felt was annoying. Like, I guess she was being afraid of being sued for defamation of character, but at that point, to hell with his character. And she basically was like, he felt like he has used the words before. He has used the word nigga before. He feels comfortable using it. And I just would like to know who gave him that silver spoon. Who added you to the crew? Like, you not Eminem. You not Post Malone. You know what I'm saying? You not. And I'm not even going to excuse these rappers for using the N-word, because they do use the N-word, but because that's a whole nother debate. But I'm just saying, like, you don't even have any type of street cred. You don't even have any type of story that has a connection to our plight at all. And so the fact that you thought that's like me going to the country and teaching them how to swing dance. What I know about swing dancing? You know what I'm saying? I don't know shit about swing dancing, so I'm not gonna go to the country and do that. I'm gonna go there. I may participate, but you're not gonna catch me doing that when I come back to the East Coast. So it's the same thing.
Right. I feel you. Well, I got a unique opinion. I mean, I'm kind of on both sides of the fence a little, because I think one thing we are leaving out, and maybe a lot of people I don't think realize this, that they were going on these social media rants, but Bill Maher has always been an advocate for the black community and has always been on the correct side of things. He's always been pro-us. He has a great relationship with Michael Eric Dyson. So I'll go out on a limb and say he is a nigga. And if you break down the context of what he said it in, me and my mother had a discussion about this as soon as the topic came up. This guy he's having a conversation with is a Republican. You know what I mean? I forgot. I wrote some. I think it's Nebraska or somewhere. But he makes a very odd innuendo, and that's why Bill Maher responded the way he did. He asked Bill Maher, "You can come down and work in the fields with us." So you kind of see in a way this is white versus black. We're talking about probably a racist Republican white guy who could care less what's going on in the black community versus somebody who's always been an advocate for us, who throws this little jab, little innuendo. So Bill Maher, I'm not excusing it. I'm not saying it was appropriate.
No. I know. Let me interject.
Go ahead.
Let me interject. But at what point I understand that we need white people to fight this war. We need white people to systematically dismantle the systems that their great-grandfathers have put in place, and we need white people to talk to other white people about it, because white people only listen to white people, just like doctors only listen to doctors, lawyers only listen to lawyers, black people only listen to black people. Honestly, we need one of every race in this country to be the leader, okay, if we're going to have peace amongst everybody, period. So I'll say that first. But at what point do we allow our allies to feel like they're one of us? Why? You're my ally. I need you to stand next to me, not in front of me. Don't use my culture. Don't think that you can take bits and pieces from my culture and use it. I want you to defend it. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, I respect our allies, and I am not going to deny that we need our allies. However, to my house, that don't mean you don't have to take off your shoes. You feel me? It's still a respect thing at the end of the day. So I do understand what you're saying about that. Like, yes, I'll say that. That's why I said his intent was not to be malicious, and that I peeped. I read it. It was cool. I knew the other guy. His comment about working in the fields it definitely had racial intent. Because you could just hear it.
I'm happy you brought that up, because I think that went over a lot of people's head. In a way, was it appropriate and untasteful? In a way, he was defending black culture. He went about it in a very poor way, but he was making himself one of us. He shouldn't call himself a nigga. And that's another thing I think people are missing. He didn't
right. He should have said, I work in the house. If he wanted to make that joke.
But
you know what I'm saying? If he wanted to make that joke.
He was definitely making himself a part of our culture, and it was an undertone that went over a lot of people's heads. He was basically saying, "Don't come over here with some innuendos like I'm a part of them. Like those is my niggas. I'm one of them. You know what I mean? But obviously, you have to remember you're on such a large platform, in that even if you are trying to spew the appropriate message, or you have, like you said, good intent, it's gonna get misconstrued, and all people are gonna see is a big nosed white man say nigga. And people, they aren't going to be, the majority of people aren't going to be like us, and they're not going to dive into it and break it down the way we are right now.
Right. And that's the problem. That's the point. Our generation, like Michelle Alexander, I just started reading The New Jim Crow.
I own that.
Whoa.
I've been meaning to get to it.
Whoa. Great book. I just read. So far, I've read the introduction. Even the introduction was fueled, and I'm just like, whoa. Anyhow, she used something. She used a term in there, and she described our generation as sleepwalking. And meaning we're watching, like, we're allowing people to, portray our culture. We're allowing people to rob our culture. One. We're allowing people to say things from our culture, like the word nigga, and just people from different races saying it, which, I mean, I'm not gonna, that's another debate, but I'm just saying, we've allowed people to use bits and pieces of our culture. And I just think that I lost my train of thought. Shit. No.
I think, okay.
Can you
want me to take off?
No, I was talking to my sister because she's distracting me. They're over here.
Okay.
Damn. Yeah, pick up, and then I'll come back.
Okay.
I'm just interject when I remember it.
What that's why I said I had mixed feelings about it, because the overall spectrum, it is wrong. But me personally, like, we always joke about that white boy who gets the pass. And in a way, I feel like he is one of the white boys who gets the pass, even though, like, you made a great point at the beginning. We just have to stay firm on that.
Here's what I was saying. He's the white boy that gets the pass, and that's fine. Fine. He could be the white boy that gets the pass, and that's cool in a social setting. There's a time and a place for everything, okay? Now, like you said, we're not every person who watches and hears that video is going to think, you know, he's done a lot for the black community. Maybe they consider him, you know, one of them. Oh, black people aren't going to think, you know, he's done a lot for us. He's one of us. That's what's up. People are going to sleepwalkingly look at things on the surface. And he has to realize, with a platform of millions of people in a country that is sleepwalking, you cannot be so overt. Now, if it was the homies, and we was chilling at the crib, and he said, y'all, I'm a house nigga. Nobody was going to be mad, because you didn't do that on a grandiose scale. Right, and you talking to your niggas, period.
Yeah.
But you are on a national scale. This was your opportunity to awaken even one white person, one conservative, one redneck. And you know what I'm saying? And other black people too. But you didn't. You just thought you was too down. It's just that girl who got comfortable too soon, you know? That's how I feel.
It's funny though, because race and color plays so much importance in the dialogue. But when you look at people like Jason Whitlock, who's talking crazy about Serena Williams, talking crazy about LeBron James, and when you look at people like Ben Carson, who are jumping out the window and saying crazy stuff about slavery and things like that, and these are both brown-skinned black men. I admire Bill Maher as way more of a nigga than those two black men. So it gets a little tricky, but like you said, there's a time and place for everything, and we do have to set a standard.
You know how white people, when there's a bombing, they be like, oh, he's not one of us. He's crazy. He's a lunatic. He needs help.
Right.
You know, so when people like Ben Carson, when you bring up people like Ben Carson, that's how we think, oh, he's a wild card. Like, he's just crazy. Like, you're brilliant with your hands, and you're a brilliant surgeon, but somewhere you got lost.
Yeah.
You feel me? And that's how we see Ben Carson. But feel me, if somebody, and Ben Carson gave up his black card. Bill Maher has to earn it.
He threw it down the drain.
He threw it down the drain. Like, he can never get it back.
You're never getting it.
Like him, right? Right. It has been revoked. You have been evicted. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, he can never ask for the support of the black community ever in his life. And he knows that, and I think what?
I say you're absolutely right, without a shadow of a doubt.
Right.
Yeah.
Bill Maher, I'm telling you, it's just the setting for me. It just really is the platform. Like, my number one pet peeve of people who have a national platform of millions of people viewing in is they don't do enough for fear of losing what they have. So America forces you to assimilate, you know, and I was talking to a good friend of mine about this, and I said, going further in life, I don't ever want to have to assimilate simply because of the title I have. You know what I'm saying?
And
I want to be black.
Jason Whitlock is one of those people.
Right. Al Sharpton, sorry.
Yeah, it's saddening because it's like once you get to a certain status as a black man or woman, like you said, you have to assimilate, and it's like you can't do or say certain things, and you see it broadcasted daily when you look at people, even like Stephen A. Smith, Jason Whitlock, Ben Carson. Whenever we have these people who make it to this high plateau, and we say, okay, these are our leaders, and we can follow them, they jump out the window on you, and they'll say something that just destroys the whole black community or culture as a whole. And you're like, oh, you're supposed to be fighting for us. How you get to that status and bow down to the white man like that?
It just reminds me of, in Michelle Alexander's book again, she said the affluent, the affluent black African Americans, black people, they think they're free, but no, you're in a golden cage. You get what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, you're still not free. You think you made it because they gave you something you didn't have, which was stability.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They gave you things that we have that our people don't have generally. So when you get stability, when you get a little money, when you get these things and you taste that life, you don't want to ever go back to what you was doing.
Yep.
And I understand that mindset. I understand that. But at the end of the day, if just one person, one of those people who switch sides or assimilated, if they would speak out, that would also wake up everybody else like him. And you can't fire and take down every single person who's saying what they want. That's not going to happen. And united, we stand. Period.
Not to cut you off, Patri-ca, but it's funny you say that because Jason Whitlock was actually glorifying that assimilation. And when he spoke about the LeBron James vandalism issue, he was like, yo, you're rich. Later for those racial issues. Don't bring light to that. So we have another black man with a powerful platform actually preaching. Let's all stay in assimilation. Why talk about the nastiness of racism? You can just pay a whole staff to buy you another house or clean up the house. Let's not talk about any real issues.
Let me tell you though, Jordan, he's appealing to the audience that pays him. This also goes back to the crabs in a bucket mentality of minorities. If minorities supported rappers, support and bought their music, showed up to their concerts, and was their major source of income, no, we wouldn't, and we didn't have that crabs in a bucket mentality, regardless of what they say or do, they would have the black community behind them, buying them stuff, ensuring that they still get the things that they've worked for. You get what I'm saying? So it's like these people are put between a rock and a hard place. Like when a rapper comes out and he's saying some real shit and he's ill with it, he not getting no attention. But Lil Uzi Vert, even though I do love a good Lil Uzi Vert song when I'm trying to turn up, that's the only time. Not if I'm trying to be conscious.
The only time.
You know what the only time. Fact.
Right.
So, but who's Lil Uzi Vert's audience? White people. They're buying his shit. When a rapper changes his flow up, his lyrics up, it's usually white people who are buying his shit because they don't care about what he's saying because they're turning up. And at the end of the day, none of what he's saying applies to them anyway. And hey, this money is nothing for me. Let me buy his $10 album. So it's just from top to bottom. It makes it impossible to be together. Like everyone got to work together to make this work, and that's what people aren't getting.
And LeBron James isn't off the hook neither. A lot of people are happy that he spoke up about the vandalism, but LeBron James is the same man who was asked in the press conference about the murder of Tamir Rice, and he said, "Oh yeah, I haven't got all the details. I can't speak on that." Like, a child was murdered for no reason by the police, and you need facts, my nigga? But like you said, you gotta play into that assimilation because there's a white man behind LeBron James. Go, don't say nothing about that boy. You crazy? You gotta get this bread, nigga.
Yeah.
Right. And at what point are we going to have our people in power?
Exactly, and that paints a poor message for our youth, because that shows them once you reach a certain level of success, you lose your voice and you have to do whatever the white man tells you to do. You can't uplift your people. You can't say or do what you want. So that's really leading a very poor example.
Right. Right.
The golden cage.
Yeah.
Right.
So what do you think, like, when...
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, what do you think for those people who make those goofy arguments when they say, okay, well, we call each other niggas, or they say, well, black comedians, they call white people crackers, so it's all the same thing.
No, it's not. No, hell
It's
no.
not.
They can't be the same. No.
There's no history behind the word cracker.
I was just about to say, like, the word nigga goes back hundreds of years.
There actually is a history to the word cracker that a lot of people don't mention, and it was actually the whip cracker. He was actually the person who supervised the slaves. So something that is supposed to be used as a derogatory term, in a way, is almost a compliment. When you call a white man cracker, you're saying, what up, master? What up? What up, foreman? What up, supervisor? What up, lead person in charge?
You just blew my mind.
Yeah, that came out of left field. I ain't never heard of
that. Yeah, so when now you know, when a white person uses that argument against you, say, well, you see all these black comedians saying cracker. Well, it's actually more diminishing for their character, because cracker is almost an uplifting term. Because that's almost acknowledging someone as a superior. It's not derogatory or condescending in any way, shape, or form if you look at the depth of the history.
Mm.
So what y'all think about us calling each other niggas?
Huh?
I said, so what do y'all think about us calling each other niggas? Because that's another excuse they like to run through. So what would be your point of view if you were having this debate with a Caucasian person? So, well, y'all call each other niggas, so why is it so different?
You are, because when I say to a black person, my nigga, guess what?
Right.
You are my nigga. We are under the same repressive forces. We're going through the same thing. They see us the same. They want the same thing for us, which is nothing. You are my nigga, period. I feel you, simply just looking at you, because we know how they see us. You get what I'm saying? We ain't got to ask that.
It's almost like it's just like we're one and the same to them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And when rappers are saying,
Go ahead.
And when rappers are saying nigga, it's also their way to connect to us. But it's kind of like that fake friend, because it's like, yeah, I connect with y'all, and I could do a lot more, but guess what? He's cutting my check, and now I have a family.
Exactly.
And it's so, I'm using this word to connect to you, and I am black, but at the same time,
I'm not going to do nothing for you.
Right, but I'm not going to do nothing for you, because I will actually become a nigga again. And I don't.
I was gonna say, and if you ever notice, like, entertainers specifically give back to communities, it's usually 100% out of their pocket. They have like no sponsorship, nobody's a part of it. The police department didn't volunteer to set up cut off the block so that they can have a big safe environment to do something like that, where they can, an entertainer can give back. Like, you never see that shit. It's just like a big ass bus or a Sprinter van, whatever the fuck the entertainer is in for the day, maybe 10 people in his posse, and that's it, and mad of whatever they're giving back of. You know what I mean?
There's no support.
It's just there's no support in that.
So a lot of people lose. Go ahead.
And to go off of what Edward said, true. There's no support when rappers give back. It's like Chance the Rapper giving $1.3 million here. Jay-Z giving out book bags over here. What they lack is organization, okay? Because if they really came together, organization and unity, like I've been saying, is imperative at every level, because if black artists really sat down and said, instead of Chance giving $1.3 million here and doing this and doing that, why don't we all as artists come together, put something big in the pot, and donate to what we feel is a cause? You know what I'm saying? A huge cause, like the Flint water crisis. What if every black and Latina artist had a big-ass benefit concert? You think that shit wouldn't sell out? And donate that to Flint. And we could have Flint fixed in a day. But no one has that organization. No one has that thinking. You know what I'm saying? That unity is missing. So that's really the issue. And, sorry, I was talking to a friend about this. I was talking to Elijah about this, actually. You know Elijah. And we were talking, and he met Tupac Shakur's babysitter back in Cuba when he just came back from study abroad. He met her. And so she was there right in the heart of everything, with Angela Davis, with Asada Shakur, with people like that. And she said to him basically like what they had back then was passion for freeing the minds of their people and teaching the black culture, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But what they lacked was an intellectual aspect on how to do it. And the FBI put people like Asada Shakur in exile and Tupac's babysitter in exile. And Fred Hampton, they killed him because these are people who knew how to organize people, and that was their only threat. That was literally their only threat. They knew how to wake people up, organize them, but the plan never went forward to the execution. You wake people up, so what are you going to do with them? So,
right.
And I guess that's my question to you, Jordan, even though I guess you're the one that's supposed to be asking the questions. But I do have a question for you. If our goal, if we have a clear goal, and the goal is to wake people up, what are you going to do? What do you think we should do? They arrive.
Say the question one more time. I want to get a good answer.
If the goal is to wake people up, if the goal is to organize our people, right, and people alike, basically, if that is the goal, what do you do when they're awake? Where do we go from here? What's the execution?
When you have their attention, right?
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. There's so many layers to that. Like, once you have an understanding of this world we're in, like, it's so much that needs to be done. I was just at an event at Great Oaks on Barnum Ave, and we were discussing so many things with some of the students. We were breaking down the brutality of the education system, how a lot of people go into high school at fourth grade reading levels. We were talking about police brutality, manhood, just these different things. And even you guys can go and look at something Killer Mike said at a press conference, and he said everybody talks about the revolution, but who knows how to plant? Who knows how to farm? Who knows how to do this? We ain't ready for shit. And I think that it's such a learning curve that we never get taught. And like I'm actually trying to put something together with Lafayette James, one of our old high school classmates, and we're trying to put together an event that talks all about nutrition. So we've been taught that we have to get this ABC learning from, up until we graduate college, American history, this and that, but it's so much more. There's so many levels of history that we aren't taught. There's so many things that we don't know, and that you have to be a conscious, woke person to start understanding. We're not taught the value of nutrition. We're not taught how to farm, and how to have our own gardens, how to plant, how to do all these things. It's a lot out there, and that's actually a part of me doing this podcast, to raise that awareness of all those things we really need to start learning and teaching ourselves. I was just talking to my girlfriend yesterday, and I was explaining to her the importance of unity. I live off of Madison Avenue in Bridgeport, and I say, when you literally stand at McKinley Avenue and Madison Avenue on the corner, when you look across the street, there's Sergio, that's ran by Italians. There is another corner store that is ran by Asians. There's a deli to the left that is ran by Portuguese people. All the way down, there's a restaurant that's ran by Brazilians. You already know a lot of the Middle Eastern people got the corner stores on lock. They got the cell phone shops on lock. What do we own? What do we have? And like you said, we have to break away from the traditional narrative and the traditional American education. Because right now, especially when you see our leaders like Stephen A. Smith and Jason Whitlock, they're teaching that assimilation, and they're teaching you, once you get it, just run and never turn around. And you actually need to do the opposite if we're ever even going to be able to compete in this racial war. We have to teach business ownership. We have to teach unity. What we're doing right now, the three of us are participating in that. I'm trying to get something started off the ground, and y'all both could have told me, you on your own. If you said, nah, I'm going to give it a shot, I'm going to call in. And we support one another, and we try to create our own growth out of nothing.
Right.
It's so deep, and we might have to get back on here and just do an episode on just that topic alone. On once we are woke, you put that perfectly. Once we are woke, and we understand we are in a much bigger war than we could ever imagine. Where do you start? And it's a very, very long list.
Right. It's true. We're all over the place, and that was their intent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was their intent to, okay, now when you discover what it is, you know, do you have the fortitude and to proceed? You know, do you have the will? But honestly, if you're truly woke, right, and you consider yourself woke, there's no way that you could turn your back on the issues. Once you awaken, it's like a switch you can't turn off.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Because even for me, like, personally, with, you know, my whole journey to medical school, and, you know, my dream is to be a physician working in New York City. You know what I'm saying? At New York Presbyterian. That is my dream. And let me tell you.
Patri-ca, not to cut you off. Are you comfortable talking about what happened to you last time or the year before?
Oh yeah, I don't care. I'm comfortable.
Well, I think what's so incredible about you is, for the listeners, Patri-ca was in a situation where she was at a party in Bridgeport, and she got shot in the leg, and that could have given Patri-ca the ultimate excuse to say, fuck the hood, fuck being conscious, fuck being woke. These niggas ain't shit. And she could have went about her life. And whenever she was pressed with the issue of giving back or helping, she could have gladly used that excuse that I got shot. I don't care about them ignorant niggas. But she actually twisted it. She used it. It encouraged her more to go, yo, it's really bad. And especially I'm on my journey of being educated and trying to accomplish all my goals. I got to make my community a part of this, and I can't turn around. And she made sure that she didn't fall into that assimilation. And I got to kudos her for that.
Thank you. Well, at that point, I was just like, whoa, you know, these niggas need me more than ever. Because, wow, like, I was really just it was just a random night. And you know what's crazy? Like, it sounds corny too. Like, people be like, oh, you know, the night started off and we were hanging out and then we went out. We never thought this was going to happen. You know, that's literally what happened. You know, I woke up from a nap. I got dressed. You know, I beat my face. And then I told my mom, hey, I'll be back. Like any other night. You know what I'm saying? It was identical to any other night that I've left this house to go to an event. Except you never know when that one night is going to rock your world. And that was certainly my night. But you know, forward to what I was saying is, yeah, that is my dream, to work at this hospital. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I'm not going to turn my back on my people, period. So, and that means being public. That means being open. That means saying things that may get my superiors upset. And, you know, I've been battling with myself, like, what would you do if one of your superiors came to you in the future and was like, you know, we can't have you doing this, whatever, so-and-so. What would you do? And I am prepared to walk away. I'm prepared to open my own practice and do my own thing. And hopefully I will get the support of my people to sustain myself. Because what is life going to be like? You know, when you have your life, or you know, I don't want to be that person who's just kind of living and then I die. You know, I want to be that person who, okay, she did this, you know, she became a doctor, she gave back to her community, she woke people up. That's waking people up is what I want to be remembered for. And she just so happened to have been a doctor.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Being a doctor is something that I'm going to do.
But I think that message is something that like you going back to your previous point, you saying, what do we do once we're woke? And that is a message we need to teach. You do not need to be working for no job who disagree with your beliefs, who going to disrespect you, who are going to do you dirty. You don't have to belittle yourself. It's okay to have the strength and the dignity
to walk away.
I won't allow this, and walk away. But we actually are taught the opposite. We, along with a number of issues, not just employment, that we have to put our head down, take a beating from the man, and just figure it out. Life goes on. We're talking deal with it.
Right.
Life ain't fair. How many times you heard that growing up? Life ain't fair. Deal with it. You never gonna have a job.
Right.
And if you're gonna be a strong-minded person and you're gonna hold your ground and have dignity, you got to do the complete opposite. You can pay me $1 million to go to no job where I'm being disrespected, and that goes into another conversation of the pedestal we put money on. Your happiness.
At what price can you be bought?
Dignity. Yeah. What's
your price?
But like you said, we have to teach these narratives. You know, but these narratives don't get taught. Instead, we're taught the narratives that the media wants us, that they want us to acknowledge and learn through the media. And that's going to be my next topic, and we can go into how crucial the media is for our community and the way they manipulate us.
Forget the media. Just honestly. Sorry. Go ahead.
But you can't really forget the media because everybody's in tune with the media, and not everybody's as smart as the three of us. That we're gonna have our own opinions and we're gonna stick grounded to what we were taught, what we believe in. A lot of people are gonna fall victim to the media. And I'm reading a book by Professor Griff called A Covert War on Hip Hop, and he has an acronym on page 33 in that book. If anybody wants to read it. And he uses an acronym for media as multi-ethnic destruction in America. And it's crazy. When you start to learn the history of media and propaganda, and there's there's an author who wrote a lot about propaganda way back in the day, like I think the 30s and the 40s. They have been planning to use this as a tool to control us for decades and decades and decades and decades back. So we have to be careful how much we're getting invested in. Like everything, and I went to a Professor Griff's lecture recently, and he was even scientifically explaining how when you see certain things or you hear certain things in the media, they control your emotions and how you're feeling and how you're going to think for the rest of the day. And it's literally, for lack of better words, it's mind control. So you have to be careful. It's brainwashing, yeah, and it's all in I think the first 2 chapters of that book I'm reading. And I would even go on a limb to say I slightly feel like the Bill Maher thing was brainwashing. And I really feel like it's a bunch of white people knee-slapping somewhere behind the scenes, laughing at us because we're all so invested and outraged at Bill Maher. And there's so much more fucked up shit happening right now. And we're worried about a white man who's actually on our team. No, he shouldn't have said that shit. But a white man who's fighting a good fight with us. And we've taken all this time and energy to slander him. Why? Because the news told us to slander him. And that's why I said they were knee-slapping because they were excited. Ooh, a white man who actually is in their favor. See, watch what we do with this story. Watch how we evoke this emotion. Let's get them completely distracted. And I got a list, a number of things that are much more
that
important
you guys
right
should
now.
be outraged about.
Yeah, I think, how long ago was it? I don't know if you guys have been following the Terrence Crutcher trial, but the woman who killed Terrence Crutcher, Betty Shelby, just got off for not a day in jail time a week or 2 ago. But they're not going to publicize that on the media because you might want to go kill that bitch. But no, they're going to tell you to be mad at Bill Maher. You know what I mean?
Right.
No, think about it. Trump just submitted that budget to Congress, millions and millions and millions of dollars getting cut to education and things that we need in our community.
$9.2 billion.
And even if you look at, so what was the cover for that? Russia. Now we're all worried about this Russia shit. Who gives a fuck what's happening in Russia? We're about to lose millions and billions of dollars for our children, the next leaders of the free world. And we're talking about some conspiracy in Russia. We got to start paying attention to these things. There's always a distraction. There's always a distraction going on. Even there was a 22-year-old found hanging from a tree in Jackson, Mississippi, not too long ago. And they try to cover it up as suicide. What black boy gonna hang himself from a tree in Mississippi in a suicide?
Right.
But once again, they want you to be mad about Bill Maher. They want you to be mad at Bill Maher. I don't want you to be mad about niggas getting lynched in Mississippi. They want you to be mad about Bill Maher.
Right.
You know,
if the
go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like, if the media was really who they were supposed to be, which is the voice of the people, if they were really going to be the voice of the people, they would be covering all that and more.
Yep.
They would be covering everything, but they too, they too are not in control.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have people. It's those people that are high up, that whose names that we don't know unless you Google search it, because they're never in the media.
I'm happy you said that because, and you could give it whatever titles and you know what you could put it in whatever quotes you choose. You could say the Illuminati, you could say the secret societies, you could say the white men we don't know that run the country. But there are people doing that, like going back to what you said, what you start to learn, what you start to practice once you woke. There are people behind closed doors doing very vicious things. Like very vicious things. They are controlling these messages. And even it's I think public record, you can look up this. Everything that comes through the media has to be filtered through the CIA. They are on top of what's popping up on your phone. Even Professor Griff at his lecture, he was saying The smartphone is being utilized to constantly control your emotions and your feelings. Once you put in that PIN number, once you put in your thumbprint, whatever pop up on your feed or your timeline or your YouTube, wherever you get your media, is gonna distract you right then and there. It's 24/7. They wanted it.
Right. What's that?
Whose phone is that?
That's not my phone.
Is you Ed? Ed,
Yeah.
you sleep, nigga?
No.
Right.
Sound like you was snoring over there, bro.
Real shit, it did.
I'm gonna hit you, bro. Me and Patri-ca, we gonna wrap it up, all right?
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna get him on. Patri-ca? Yeah, I hear. He fell asleep.
I feel him. It's a very frustrating place to be, and it's very confusing. And sometimes you just got to be like, I'm gonna take my ass to sleep.
But, ladies and gentlemen, that is a perfect example of white supremacy.
In the morning.
White supremacy hurts so bad. Sometimes you just gotta take a nap, even when you're on a live broadcast on the internet.
Right.
You gotta do what you gotta do. But like I was saying, Patri-ca, the cell phones are just remotes. They're remotes to control us, and this is all real evidence out there that you can research. Like I said, at the end of the show, I'll get the author of the book Propaganda. But they've been planning on ways to control us and manipulate us since before we was born, before we were thought of, and we have to accept that as a reality. That's not some made-up conspiracy theory. They are trying to control our emotions and our thoughts 24/7. And like you said, what do we do when we're woke? We have to acknowledge that, and we have to teach that, and we have to develop ways to maneuver around that. And that, like you said, we were sitting there having a conversation, and we discussing all the things about Bill Maher that they weren't telling us in the media because we woke. So we got to teach people to think like that.
Right. Right. Well,
go ahead.
Like the people before us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the people before us, we're woke or could be considered woke because we've dug up and we've looked up the things of the people who are working for this fight and people who have worked this good fight way back even to the 1900s, right? So it's going to be incremental. That's what that shows me. And so now it's like, what's next? What are we trying to do for everybody? Wake everyone up, and then however long that may take, and then our kids will wake them up and fight, and then our kids will wake them up, fight, and then dismantle shit. You get what I'm saying? So,
and one of my elders, one of my OGs, told me at that event I was mentioning I was recently at. He said, you know how you beat racism and you kick it fast? You don't let them know you're coming. And that has changed my whole perspective on being conscious, on fighting the racial war. Don't let them know you're coming. So don't, like you said, don't let this media distract you. Don't get up in the white man's face, whooping and hollering, talking about how you going to beat them up and what y'all going to do and fear of a black planet and we going to take this shit over and we going to go to war and we going to fight. No.
Right,
you beat the white man at his own game. So you know how you do it. You don't let them see you coming. So know what that means?
Right.
That means teaching your kids their real history. That means teaching them how to be properly educated.
Right.
You know, teaching them how important college is. Teaching them how important business ownership is in their community. Teaching them how important it is to give back. Teaching them how important it is to relay that message to the next generation. Do everything outside of racism. That's how you beat racism. You build up everything that don't got shit to do with racism. That's just about being a strong-minded, good, whole person.
Right. I agree, and that's why it starts with the kids.
Yeah.
Or they're the most important part, I'll say.
Yeah.
You hear me?
And that's what. Yeah, I hear you. And that's everything I just named. That's what I'm trying to do now. I'm just trying to uplift the community in every other way besides just talking about. And not to say racism and white supremacy isn't real, but we can't beat the racism and white supremacy if we don't build up on these other things. You know
right.
what I mean? You got a little bit more time, or you ready to get up out of here?
I do have to go to the gym.
You do? All right. That's good. So I have some more notes, but I'll save that for next time. We had a really good discussion tonight. I really appreciate you and Edward.
That's what I was going to say. Rome wasn't built in a day, and this is not going to be the first. I mean, this was the first, but this is not going to be the last time I'm going to pop up in here.
That's what's up. I really appreciate you. I always refer to you as one of my conscious sisters. So I appreciate y'all's support. Let's keep this going.
Right.
All right.
I agree. Okay. Bye, Jay.
All right. Salute. For everybody still out there, I wanted to mention one thing. Out of Michael Eric Dyson's recent book, Tears We Cannot Stop, it's a bit much, so I didn't really want to interrupt the dialogue. But Michael Eric Dyson had a lot of good things to say about the N-word, and he was emphasizing the difference when it's spelled with GGA and GER. So this is, if anybody wants to purchase the book, it's called Tears You Cannot Stop. The author is Michael Eric Dyson, and this is from pages 165 to 169. And I think it really makes a great point to the dialogue I had today with Patri-ca and Edward. So I'm going to just read these 4 pages to you guys and get up out of here. It says, nigger often sounds organic and sensual in the mouths of black folks. Its meaning is shaped by the circumstance in which it's said. It is a term that works best when spiced with humor and slang. It is a greeting. What up, nigga? It is a direct object noun. You my nigga, if you don't get no bigger. It is meant to emphasize or celebrate. The setup. Hey, man, I just got into Harvard. The celebration. Nigga. It is an imperative suggested by a change in tone. Hey, bro, my doctor just called and said I've got to go get some blood work. The speaker is urged to comply with the doctor's wish in responding. Voice that slightly stretches the first syllable. Nigga. It is laughter. These girls never give me any play, and I drive a Mercedes. As in mercy, these payments killing me. The humorous response with hand over mouth. Nigga. It is a sign of approval. My nigga. It is a sign of disapproval. Said sternly with squinting eyes. Nigga. It is an expression of disbelief. Spiked with a smirk. Nigga, please. It expresses self-hate, much like nigger does with a scandalous, scolding tone. Niggas. And it signifies a love for one's folk, even as one acknowledges their flaws. Largely in a lighthearted vein, these niggas. If more of you understood that nigger is a world apart from nigger, and if you understood how different spelling and pronunciation and the race of the user changes its meaning, then some of you might not insist that you should be able to say it too. Beloved, feel free to admit it. Most of you thought that black folk were saying nigger. You thought you had been banned from using it because it was a horrible word. Only to discover, to your surprise, that black folk were saying it too, which meant that it was once again safe to say. But many of you felt disappointed. You felt it your duty to admonish black people that they should know better since the word supports the bigotry of some whites. The many whites believe that it's easier to warn black folks not to use the word, to tone down their lyrics and eliminate a troubling word than it is to keep white folks from using a racist epithet that still echoes in white quarters. Some of you may even feel a bit of anger since you had done so much to keep your family and friends from using the word. You think it is hard to tell white folks not to use the word when black folks simply won't stop. My friends, white privilege screams in many of these reactions. The fact that so many white folks don't know the difference between nigger with an ER and nigger with a GA is more than a lack of curiosity. It is a refusal to learn about black life and culture. Of course, it cannot be denied that some black folk also think there is no difference between nigger and nigger. But even though that's true, the stakes are different. Many whites draw equivalency between the term as a way to establish fair rules about what blacks and whites should be able to say to each other. Many of you believe that ban is universal and there's nobody should use the word. Many blacks agree. Their aim is largely pragmatic. They want to keep white folk from believing that they have a right to say the word in public. If the best way to do that is to keep black folks from saying it too, then so be it. That history sets some black folks' teeth. Folks' teeth on edge. They think the term's mutation to nigger can't relief from the hateful charm of nigger. They think that many of you won't be smart enough to tell the difference between the two. This may be where black conflict emerges with white privilege. I refuse, and I hope you do too, to turn white Americans into infants. Older members of your community know or can easily learn that there's a difference in the two terms. It is reasonable to say that younger whites who hear the relentless stump of nigger on their favorite rap tunes are ignorant of the history of violence against black folks that nigger suggests. Is it possible that those same black artists are poor historians too? That may be true. Yet those same kids, indeed those same artists, can't be let off the hook for refusing, as my father used to say, to get their lesson. We don't excuse young people. Their ignorance of American history, we teach them, even as we chide their bluster and their pride in not knowing. I had to testify in the 1990s before a state legislature about the effects of rap music on our nation's youth. I had to answer in part the claim that a white boy had been encouraged to use the N-word because he heard it in his favorite music. I asked the legislator rhetorically if that same boy, who had been introduced perhaps to the B-word, too, which is repeated arguably as much as the N-word in rap music, had refrained from using the term against or around his mother. I suppose out loud that he had no doubt learned how and when, with whom to use the epithet, or even one of its offshoots like biatch. Thus, he learned not to use the N-word in certain contexts and should understand that he cannot use the N-word either. The same is true for other white boys. Even as they hear the word nigger constantly leaked, they should know better than to stun with the privileges of blackness tucked into their oversized clothing. I'm sure you realize the hypocrisy of urging folks to be responsible and yet making excuses for white America. You may have heard some black folk argue that using nigger is a sign of black self-hate. That is black folk denying their own history, denying their own savvy, their ability to code switch and to make distinctions between words and the histories those words carry. There are many signs of black self-hate to combat, but using nigger is not one of them. Beloved, you've got to face the fact that accusing black folk of perpetuating the legacy of inequality by using nigger is a vicious ruse. It is yet another way of refusing to accept responsibility, of wanting everyone else for white folk to practice the accountability you preach. All of this is a calculation to avoid a bigger issue, and that is how black folk are, after all our efforts to be accepted as fully American, still seen as other. Now, I'm going to get out of here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate everybody listening out there. One, salute.
The average person spends hours a week at the grocery store, but you're not an average person, are you? There's a better way to get fresh groceries, and it's called Fresh Direct. Shop for just picked fruit and vegetables, custom cut meat and seafood, freshly made meals and meal kits, all your favorite brands, plus hundreds of weekly deals. Order Fresh Direct anytime, anywhere, and get the freshest groceries delivered to your door. Use code PLAYLIST to get $25 off your first order of $99 or more. Visit freshdirect.com or download the app today. The average person spends hours a week at the grocery store, but you're not an average person, are you? There's a better way to get fresh groceries, and it's called Fresh Direct. Shop for just picked fruit and vegetables, custom cut meat and seafood, freshly made meals and meal kits, all your favorite brands, plus hundreds of weekly deals. Order Fresh Direct anytime, anywhere, and get the freshest groceries delivered to your door. Use code PLAYLIST to get $25 off your first order of $99 or more. Visit freshdirect.com or download the app today.